All right, welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily. Of course, the reason you subscribe to our channel is for our daily videos on exactly what's going on with Bitcoin and crypto today. Let's jump right into it, guys. And if you want to support content like this, if you appreciate the value this channel brings, do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up. That's all I'll say about it. The SEC chair, Jay Clayton, has just put himself on record again, talking about Bitcoin, talking about an ETF. He went on the CNBC Monday, and he said progress is being made in the crypto space to allow a Bitcoin ETF to launch, though concerns linger. And on this channel, I just don't like to give you a little quote. If we can show you the video, we'll show you the video.
About Bitcoin, I know I've asked you many times about this in the last couple of years, but it's of intense interest to the viewers. Are we any further along on a Bitcoin ETF? I know you did a memo, you and your staff, a year and a half ago, where you made it very clear you were concerned about custody and the security of custody, and you were very concerned about the fact that much of the pricing of Bitcoin was done on foreign exchanges that had the potential to be easily manipulated. Now, your realm here is a Bitcoin ETF. Are we any closer, or have the people involved in the Bitcoin businesses in any way come closer to satisfying your concerns?
The short answer is yes, but there's work left to be done. Those were not trivial questions. How do we know that we can custody and have a hold of these crypto assets? That's a key question. And an even harder question, given that they trade on largely unregulated exchanges, is how can we be sure that those prices aren't subject to significant manipulation? Now, progress is being made, but people needed to answer those hard questions for us to be comfortable that this was the appropriate type of product.
So clearly, the SEC is at a critical juncture because these remarks come just weeks before the SEC is expected to either approve or reject a pair of Bitcoin ETF proposals. So it's been a while since we've mentioned this. If you've been subscribed to our channel for a while, you know we used to talk about the VanEck SolidX proposal all the time. This one is backed by physical Bitcoin, physically backed. There's also the Bitwise Asset Management ETF. If you forgot about this, the SEC has postponed decisions on both of these ETFs all year multiple times, but faces a final deadline on October 13th for Bitwise and October 18th for the VanEck SolidX ETF. So what do you think about this? Is an ETF good for Bitcoin? Is an ETF bad for Bitcoin? I'm curious to know your thoughts. Comment below. I would say what's for sure bullish to me is how this space is changing. And even though we've been in this descending triangle, it's been kind of boring these past 2-3 months. But let me remind you that it was also boring when Bitcoin was down here. Remember, after Bitcoin had bottomed and we rallied up and we're just kind of trading here forever? This is the time you want to be involved with Bitcoin, when it's boring. Trust me. Let's move on. You're going to see what I'm talking about. So, new analysis shows that every Bitcoin hodler has made a profit if they have held at least 1,335 days. And if that seems like a lot from you, for comparison, to achieve a sure profit on the S&P 500, historically speaking, an investor would need to hold their position for 23 years, as opposed to Bitcoin's historical 1,335 days. Guys, I know it seems like we're late to the party here, because we can look back at previous prices and previous cycles, and we can see somebody like Dan Held or Peter McCormick talking about when they got in, what was going on. I know it seems like we're late to the party, but in actuality, we are incredibly early in this thing, and Bitcoin's not going away anytime soon. And the only thing stopping Bitcoin from growing and making you and me filthy rich, I would say, is time. But you don't want to be one of these people who can't afford to be patient. You know, everybody thinks that if you got into Bitcoin in 2014, then you just rode it all the way up to $20,000. But in actuality, a lot of people got in when Bitcoin was $200 and sold when Bitcoin was, $2,000. It's hard for people to be patient, and this is the first time, I think, when, back here it was a question of if Bitcoin's going to survive. Now, it's not a question. It's not going away. Many people think it's here to stay. So let's continue. And you can see by the news that pops up, Bitcoin deposited in backed warehouse is protected by 125 million insurance. So this is another way that the game is changing. You know the stuff. The company started accepting deposits and withdrawals on September 6th, ahead of the planned launch of the futures products on September 23rd. And that's pretty much the whole story. I think backed and things like it is incredibly bullish. It's people don't even realize how bullish this is in the long term. This is going to bring millions and millions of money, new money, and big money into Bitcoin in the long term. Now, in the short term, it's probably already been priced in. That's my opinion. All right, let's talk about Stellar Lumens. So I don't know if you're a fan of Stellar, but this is a little thing they're doing. So Stellar is going, and we'll talk about what this means. I'm curious to know your opinion. Stellar is planning to airdrop 2 billion XLM crypto tokens worth right now 120 million. So chat with your friends and get paid to do it. The Stellar Development Foundation and messaging service Keybase announced Monday a 2 billion XLM airdrop, the largest in Stellar's 5-year history, worth roughly 120 million over the next 20 months. Keybase users can expect monthly airdrops of 100 million XLM tokens. According to a draft blog post shared with CoinDesk, all you have to do is have an authenticated Keybase account and your XLM will appear in your wallet automatically every month for as long as the airdrop continues. So I would say, first of all, it's good that Stellar is doing something, but is this really going to pump the price? I would argue that it might do the opposite. This is just my opinion. Right now, Stellar is trading at 5 cents, and it's in kind of a free fall ever since all the altcoins pumped in 2017. I feels like it seems to be it's kind of hard. It's not finding support real well. And when you add 2 billion XLM tokens to the universe, you know, this is something I don't think is priced into Stellar at the moment. I think this is going to flood the market with Stellar tokens. And really saying that it's going to be worth 120 million, it might not be in 20 months. We don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying it's bad for the technology behind Stellar. I'm just saying it's kind of bad for the price if they're going to flood the market. Because what happens when you get airdrops? For me personally, when something forks and you get free tokens, or when there's an airdrop, you get free tokens, either people ignore it because they don't care, because people don't care about things they got free. They don't realize the value. Or 2, they sell it immediately on the market for coins that they do care about. So we'll see how that develops with Stellar. We're going to finish off today's video by talking about a common question that people often ask when it comes to Bitcoin. And the question isn't how long until mainstream adoption. That's what Andreas Antonopoulos answers in the first half of this video. The question we're going to answer is, well, how is it fair that people who got in early, how is it fair that people like Roger Ver or Dan Held or whoever, have all these Bitcoins? How's that fair? It's not fair. I didn't get a chance to buy in that early. So I'm going to rely on expert himself, Andreas Antonopoulos, to answer this question. He answers it later in this video, so I don't think a lot of people get a chance to, they didn't get a chance to hear it. And of course, you should subscribe to this guy. I subscribe to him, and he's always posting quality content. So this is how we're finishing today. Hope you got value in today's video. It was kind of a light news day, but I think I brought to you some of the most pertinent stories in the space. And at the time of recording, Bitcoin is still trading in this descending triangle, still over $10,000. We'll see what happens. All right, I will see you tomorrow, my friends. Enjoy.
Yes, I do expect that the system of Bitcoin will be unbalanced. It has so the question was, do you think it's going to be unbalanced? Bitcoin has a not very particularly good Gini coefficient. And so what that means is that the equality of ownership is quite is not as diverse as it should be, or it could be. I think that's primarily because of the way it grew. Any solutions? I'm not going to pass judgment, because to me, the idea here is that you have a system of wealth where people who took enormous risk on a completely untested technology because they saw the vision that this technology created will become rich, which is a far better basis than my grandfather killed a hell of a lot more people than your grandfather, which is the basis of wealth we have in our society today. That is the truth. Now, if Bitcoin goes to zero, are you going to bail out the people who have a lot of Bitcoin? I didn't think so. So they still run the risk. All of us do who are invested, anybody who's invested in Bitcoin is running an enormous risk that they will lose their entire investment and whatever time we've invested into these technologies, right? Could go away tomorrow, right? That's part of the risk. No risk, no reward. And nobody's coming to bail out Bitcoin, right? So from that perspective, I think that's earned wealth in a way that is much more true for many other aspects of society. Do I think it's the most equal system? No, but I don't think Bitcoin is going to be the only system we create. Bitcoin is a test bed. Yeah, sure, lots of people may become rich on Bitcoin, but there will be other cryptocurrencies, there will be other decentralized ledgers, and broad adoption doesn't mean just Bitcoin. It could be a completely different system that's built from scratch and much more equally distributed. In fact, if you think this is a big problem, start writing the blockchain that will be more equally distributed and bring it to the world. Bitcoin already gives you the recipe.